Hello, soul friends and soul family, and welcome back to another episode of the Medicine Human podcast. It's so good to be here back with you. My name is Ivy. I am your host and your friend and your soul sister in this wonderful journey of awakening. And I really appreciate you tuning your frequency into this frequency. So, for everybody that's new here, this is the Medicine Human podcast. This is a podcast for conversations of all things having to do with healing and awakening, everything. And also, if you ever want just the collection of all of the holistic health, cleansing, enema, colonic, water hydration episodes, you can go to our daughter podcast, which is Holy Sacred Shit. And that's where you'll find just the collection of all the health stuff. Because here in Medicine Human, we have a lot of conversations about a lot of different things that really matter for us right now while we're on this human journey during this great awakening. So today I am so excited to share this conversation with you. I've been a part of Wakewater Co., living water, medical grade water, global community for the last couple years, and it's it's been completely life changing for me. It's been deeply healing, deeply nourishing, deeply expanding, and really taking even my professional work to a much greater and higher level. And the experience has been profound. Absolutely profound. And today I have such a good conversation to share with you. So this is a brother that I have in the Wakewater Co community. We both work on the social media aspects for the community. I'm more so just like the educational, sciencey, researchy person. And Nick handles, I believe, a whole lot of administrative duties. He is killer with the social media. And through our journey of just becoming colleagues together, we've had a blossoming friendship as well, and it's we meet eye to eye, and like we meet on an energetic level where we have very similar understandings and perspectives, and a lot of reflections in our own individual experiences. And just when you witness that like mind and like heart in another soul, it's always so valuable, especially because you can go like really deep into subjects and share and do and promote a lot of that, inner work again and again. And it's been a great experience within Wakewater Co. And then also just cultivating the soulful relationships in this life where we can all see each other and hear each other and support each other in all different ways. And there's been so many beautiful connections within this community that I truly trust that within this podcast now we're going to be doing lots of interviews because it's great content. It's great for all of us to be sharing our audiences, and I really want to bring in people into this podcast who truly are medicine people, because it is my firm belief that we are all here as souls and human bodies, that we are here for very important purposes, and that we all have our own individual medicine that we are here equipped with, whether or not we know it yet. But we have our own medicine that we came here to imbue upon this planet, or the sentient life of this planet, and our fellow human beings. So yeah. So, anyways, lots of great conversations coming in. I've got a lot of amazing interviews coming up for you guys. People that I know are going to be medicinal to your mind and your heart and your soul. And so, today, and of course, there's going to be tons and tons of solo episodes just with me as well, because I need to do that, and it'll be really good. Anyways, though, today I am feeling so blessed and so privileged and fortunate and excited to have this conversation with you guys today. So, me and Nicholas Walker, I'm going to be in from Tennessee today, and I believe Nicholas is coming in from Texas. And yeah, what a great conversation that this is going to be. So I hope you guys all find this very supportive or educational, entertaining, inspiring, whatever it ends up being for you. And also, if this is good medicine for you, please share it with somebody that this will also be good medicine for, because that's how we truly spread consciousness. Like literally us sharing podcast episodes literally helps in the full global human awakening. So whenever anything is really medicinal for you, be sure to pass it along, because a lot of people are, searching and seeking and desiring medicine that will help bring harmony and understanding and, introspection. And truly, like, I started listening to podcasts so long ago, and like certain just podcast conversations changed me then and there. Listening to episodes while I cleaned houses and stuff, like it podcasts help form me, help morph me, help grow me. And so it is my duty to hopefully cultivate conversations that when you leave them, you will leave them differently than you came. So that's my intention with all of this. I've got so much love for all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And let's dive into what is surely going to be such a great medicine human conversation. Let's dive in. Hello, Nick, and welcome to the show. It is such an honor and a privilege of mine to welcome you into the Medicine Human and Holy Sacred Shit podcast, and to be back into our 5th season, and to be anchoring in this great energy of this new season with you, with new expansion, and with you being my new brother in our amazing community. And to be grounding into the space with you here in my first interview of the season. So thank you so much for joining me, Nick. How are you today, brother?
Yes, thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, especially for the kickoff of this new season, of this new energy. And I'm feeling grateful for our connection. And yeah, I'm happy to be here and to open into this space and to share, just my experience and anything that can be of value for our listeners.
I'm sure that there's going to be so much value in this conversation. You know how we flow. This is going to be surely medicine for both of us, and we really hope for everybody that listens, right?
Yeah.
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 And I want to say your podcast is very well done. From what I've seen, it's I respect what you've put together on that and how you're serving. So
Wow, I appreciate that. I take this shit seriously. But
yes.
at the same time, I'll let our audience know that you and I, we've met through Wake Water Co. We're both working within the Wake, within different capacities. And so you and I, we've been working together for a couple months now already. And I remember when we first, or before we started connecting, I wanted to dive into your podcast. So if I can please just like bring that exact same compliment to you, about your podcast, because before you and I even started talking, I probably binged like 3 or 4 of your episodes in a row, and I became so excited to be doing any capacity of work with you. Knowing that, how would I say, like the reflection of the way that you are so articulate, and your depth and width of knowledge and perspective and wisdom, in my eyes, it's something that is not seen to this degree, a lot in our society. And the way that you pace yourself, that's what I really got to say, that the way that you pace yourself in your articulation, in your sharing, and in your explanation was something that immediately really, really caught my attention. Because to me, I'm like, okay, this gentleman, this brother here, he has elder wisdom flowing through him. Like that was the main thing that I really felt off of you right in the beginning, like just from binging some of your podcasts. And I just want to start this conversation today with us to tell you that like the little grandma in me sees the little grandpa in you, if that makes sense. And I hope that that comes across as like the most sincere and endearing compliment, because like to me, like elders, like one of the most important things for us to honor in this, and we're here surely from our ancestors. And just like, brother, I see you and I appreciate you so much. And I'm so happy that you're in this conversation with me today, or that I'm in this conversation with you today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm happy to be here. And while I won't claim the title of elder or anything like that, something that I am opening into is acknowledging that just my authentic sharing from my heart and how I want to express can be very supportive for people. And so at times, whenever people DM me saying they were listening to my podcast, I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, people actually listen to that. So yeah.
Right? Isn't it? Is it an interesting situation, right? Then when you meet your podcast listeners and you're like, oh, you really know me. I don't know who you are yet, right? Are you starting to experience that now that your podcast is becoming more well known?
um, Something that I've noticed is how consistent some of the listens are, even whenever I take breaks. It seems like the numbers just are very consistent in how they flow. And so that's, no, I'm glad. I'm glad. It just has been very interesting at times to notice like, oh, like people actually listen to it. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so for me, like when I started my podcast, I started just for the sake of sharing, just because like I knew that I had to create it. Regardless of anybody listens to it, I'm going to have to do it, right? So when people started listening to it and, during the analytics, you can see where kind of people are from, and it was really bizarre to be like, "Oh, there's some people over like, in Switzerland that are listening to the podcast, and down in Japan and in all these places." And it was really exciting, but also really what an interesting world we live in, that we can just sit in our houses and talk and, be everywhere now. For
Mm-hmm.
you, when you began your podcast, what was the reason underneath? What
Mm,
stimulated that? And also, how long have you been podcasting for? Not that this is a conversation about podcasting, but
mm.
it's
Yeah,
such a
yeah,
good topic.
yeah. We can launch from here. Um, so in terms of my podcast, it aligned with a period on my journey where my highest growth was in unlocking my throat and my voice and my expression, and just allowing whatever wanted to come through to come through. And so it was breaking through many barriers of, um, at many times in my life, I allowed myself to conform to this narrative that I was the quote unquote shy kid, or the quiet kid, or regardless of whether or not that was true. I feel like in some ways maybe, and in some ways no. Um, in general, though, I remember you and I were having a conversation, and I told you about this, about how as a kid, um, I was locked up in many ways in my body, as many of us were. Although I remember my mom telling me recently that, and I remember what this experience was like as a child, how as a kid, for a period of time, I wasn't really able to laugh. Um, if I found something to be funny, I actually like would keep my mouth tight and shut, and I wouldn't even let the laugh like come out. It would kind of come out like a it would be like I just would like hold my mouth shut, and like I guess everyone around me would be like, hey, like it's okay to laugh, like you can laugh, like whatever. And I guess I wouldn't smile in school pictures or something. People wanted me to smile. And um yeah, so there was from childhood, definitely a repression and suppression.
Mhm.
Uh, And so, yeah, it was a part of my journey at one point, to really step into just sharing whatever, wanted to flow through me. And so, it was very interesting to notice just like, collecting aspects of my soul as that was happening, and knowing many and noticing many of the, you know, some of the faculties, if we want to call them that, just deeper ability to sense how energy is moving and interacting in my reality based on my actions. So I remember, for example, whenever I posted my first, so there was like this one video, this one summer, where it would be like it was going to be the first time where I'd like actually come out and shared something from a place of vulnerability. And so I basically recorded like this Instagram video, and it felt really big at that time because it was like I'd never done something like that before. And so I remember, it was of my face, like the whole thing. And so pretty much every insecurity in the book came up. And so I remember as I posted that, I just remember like just how everything felt like it shifted immediately. I felt like my ears popping, like yeah. Actually, um, wow. So whenever that happened, if we want to call it a Kundalini awakening, I don't really love to get into the certain,
Yeah.
terminologies of things. Although, as that happened and as I stepped into that aspect of myself, as all of those shadows and the grip hold that those had on me beforehand, as the light came in, my body was actually convulsing. Like there was a period of time for at least 20, 30 minutes where I was just sitting there, after doing what I did. And I mean, it wasn't like painful. It may have looked a little violent, although like it felt like my entire body was unlocking itself.
And
Uh,
this is immediately after you posted. Like, so you post and you start having like this physiological and energetic response in your body.
yeah, it was it
Cool.
was
Go
it was
on.
pretty much right after. And obviously that can sound a little suspect, right? And because we do have to be careful, in terms of, uh, we get to be careful in terms of, uh, our actions do have consequences, and this is a spiritual reality where there are forces that would like to have access to our body. And so discernment is important in terms of how something actually feels within you after you make a certain decision. So something that I like to say often is peace is my validation. And there, I don't know if I've yet to find something that goes against that truth for me.
That piece is your validation. So
Yeah.
tell me more about that.
Yeah. Um, integrity to me, a lot of the time, is whenever I don't have to question something, ruminate about it, be in my mind about it. And so at times, something that I've noticed is if there's a lot of pressurization around something, uh, there have just been many choice points where I will make a certain decision, I'll take a certain path, and the peace that came from making that choice affirms to me the
Mm.
source of the decision, the integrity of the decision. And so there have been many uh, experiences on my path where it seemed like the anxiety and the confusion and the doubt and the fear and the rumination only persisted as long as I didn't make the integral choice, which then brought me peace.
I hear you. And so, with peace being your validation of you being in integrity and you being in alignment, this, of course, would be for small choices, big choices. It's like across the board. That is the baseline. That's the navigation system.
It can be, right?
Okay.
It's like, because again, being like black and white thinking is it can be risky.
Yeah.
Um although that tends to be a theme. That tends to
Yeah.
be a theme. It's difficult for me to agree to something if I agree to it and don't feel peaceful about it.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's interesting that, with human design, peace is my signature. And so that is something that I noticed that actually aligns with that. Again, definitely being careful to remain sovereign when it comes to the authority that uh, that I in the past have been inclined to give to certain things.
Yeah.
Um, although there are signposts, there are things that can align with deeper truths.
Brilliant. So for you, peace, how do you describe that peace? Is like what is that peace as your validation mentally when you're feeling it, but then what is it also like energetically in your body? And then what's it like physically like in your body?
Mm. In my body and energetically, it feels solid.
What
It
does that mean?
feels
Grounded, like sturdy?
it feels like there's no, and I don't know if this is a feeling. It seems like there is no room for question. There's like if you and I were on this call right now and there was like even the smallest drop of this isn't right for me, that would be very tough to ignore. That would be very tough to ignore. Um, yeah.
That makes perfect sense. That makes absolutely perfect sense.
Mm.
When you see people around you, in life, friends, family, coworkers, whatever, whatever, do you see other people having the inner knowing of kind of working with this internal guidance system where our internal our internal coherence is very palpable and can be felt, from the way that you say that peace is your validation. For myself, I've never really worded it like that. Over this last year, I've had increasing days of where the only way I can put it is, there's certain days where I feel like I'm in God's perfect peace. Like just like my energy and vibration is in certain days. And it's not always because of a decision that I made or something
Mm-hmm.
happening internally or something happening externally, it feels like I'm being imbued with these energies and being able to practice in this energy of perfect peace. But however, like for my guidance system, when I'm making my choices, I recognize for me that I've got like the mind, right? And I've got my heart and I've got my body, and each one of them is going to be tapping into a different, well, not a different source, but maybe a different degree, right, of intelligence and wisdom. So I always get my mind to take more of the back seat. And I feel, what does my body feel? Because my body is the multidimensional architecture, right, and the
Mm-hmm.
multidimensional vehicle. And then what is the wisdom that comes through the heart? And then I really base my decisions on like what is feeling coherent for me. But really, my coherence is the same thing as your piece as validation, truly,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Mm.
totally, totally. To me, it seems to be a varying lens on a similar, if not the same, experience. Um, I like what you said about how your peace, your coherence is not always necessarily a result of a decision. And I think that's an important distinction to make, is that um, sometimes it's more about removing some of the things and not taking certain actions than it is of like trying to get there.
Yeah, that's a
And
great point. Go on.
yeah, and seeing the peace or whatever that desired state of being is as inherent, and then certain emotions or perceptions, whatever it may be, that come up uh, can be guides that something is happening. And we get to and we get to work with it. um, and so I do have a question for you. You were sharing about your mind intelligence, your heart intelligence, your gut intelligence, and I know we'll get into some juicy stuff here.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear about, uh, if you're open to sharing, what the evolution has been like for you in terms of, you know, from childhood until now, just like a brief, snapshot. Uh, what was it like? Which centers did you feel most connected to, and what was like the unfoldment of, you know, coming into what and how you are now?
Oh, wow. That's such a big answer to make really short and sweet. Uh, I
Yeah.
mean, kind of reflecting you, I grew up as the quiet child, only child. I grew up very quiet, people knowing that I was very, very shy. Now looking back in adulthood, I see, there were some tendencies of mutism, likely, tendencies of really not feeling safe. I think not feeling securely attached to my parents. There was a lot of worry and things projected on me, or I feel as a very empathetic little girl, I took on everybody's feelings, that I as a small child became an emotional caretaker of parents, of families, things like that. So um, in my childhood, I was very aligned with nature and creativity. I was the child that I could spend the day in the garden just by myself, or I could be painting all by myself all day and be in that place of inspiration and perfect peace as a child, other than probably quite extreme anxiety, also as a child at times. And then as I grew, because I was a chronically constipated child who was constantly given pharmaceuticals for everything that you could be given pharmaceuticals for, as I grew up, I feel like all of those years of dehydration and constipation and pharmaceutical use, and the toll that the standard American diet, which also of course exists in Canada, the toll of that, not just on the growing adolescent physical body, but also the toll of that takes over like to the spiritual side of it. So then as I went through my adolescence and through school, looking back, I can see how I started conforming, to a very like a different type of me that wasn't my truest type. uh, I was bullied a lot in school. I was bullied like a lot actually, like when it came to high school and things. And then I was put on antidepressants. I was put on birth control. I was put on Accutane. Like it was just, I can see where my living became so artificial, which I'm sure this happens to so many people, but I can see where that kind of started pulling me away from my my internal. I mean, I was always sweet, but my internal purity, and I mean, I stayed very pure too, but I could see how that started removing me from what I'm really here to do. So that kind of took me in a place where I went corporate when I got out of high school, and I just looking back is like a good decade or even 15 years of my life where I don't really recognize that person anymore. I feel now where I am in my 30s that I'm actually like, and especially like in these last weeks, coming full circle back to my kindredness, my creativity, my ability to actually say, like, I'm a jolly, happy person generally, and like to really live in my own light and to allow myself to be in my light, regardless of who's around me or what mood they're in, or if other people don't even want this energy of mine for some reason. Like I'm finally in that place of being like really committed and devoted to, and my audience knows that I'm not religious, but my audience knows that I'm very spiritual. But to really be like you and I were talking before we started, like a vessel of God's work and God's work alone, whatever that means. I don't believe that I put myself here on this planet at this time, right? I believe that I'm here for a reason. So my goal is just to fulfill that. So I guess, for full cycle coming around back to the place of that childhood innocence, that childhood purity, that childhood inspiration, because that was when I was fresh on this planet, where I'm so connected to like who I am. I do remember being in the bathroom with my mom at one point and remember telling her, Mom, I want to save the world. And I remember her reply to me was, Honey, you can't. You're just a little girl, And that really stood with me for a long time. And to the degree where I think I stopped even believing like I could make a difference. Like that belief wasn't even there because I was told by my mother, the matriarch told me, I can't actually make any difference in anybody's life because I'm just a little girl. And so I'm finally, coming out of some years of mutism with COVID and everything and coming out of all of this isolation, finally just at this place again where it's like, no, I know, or sorry, yes, I know who I am. I know what work I'm here to do. I know the maybe I don't know the specifics, of course, of all of the work and how it's going to unfold, but I know the energy that is genuinely, sincerely, truly my energy that I'm imbued with, that I am here for. So I'm going to own it. And I want to be the vessel of whatever force put me here. I want to do that work every single day for the rest of time, as long as I'm here. And I don't remember what your question was, but I tried to be
Mhm.
succinct and come full circle with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I so want to hear, same for you, but go on, please.
So what I heard is that, similar to, you know, all of us really,
Yeah.
is picking up a lot of stuff during childhood.
Yeah.
And one, I will acknowledge you for everything that you have been able to dig up and to remove all of the energies and um, yeah, because I definitely have always felt your purity come through and innocence. Um, and it's interesting what you said about, you mentioned as a child feeling this call to service and and just being in the fullness of that, of actually like genuinely wanting to serve. And I think that's really interesting to notice how children, I mean, like I feel like many of us have probably seen the videos where it's, the it's always like the little children who, want to save the world or like do whatever it is. And one, I definitely do believe that we all are interested in taking care of ourselves, and whenever we are in the fullness of Holy Spirit, of God, whatever we would like to call that source that beats our heart. In my experience, there is there's a genuine wanting to serve, and it's for me how it shows up is just knowing what comes from me whenever I am in my true being, my true embodiment. And so I personally don't experience like this eh, I want to solve this thing. Not to say that that's wrong if someone feels that or comes at it from in that way. To be honest, like yeah, it's just very interesting what comes up for me there, just in terms of like, yeah, my service. It feels good to serve, and it's just a result of me doing my work. And so, anyway, I honor you and just again the purity that you've unlocked within yourself, and then also the more, I guess, tangible aspects of your work and what you are doing in terms of uh, uncovering dark matter within people.
It's really good shitty work, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So what about in your life? You know, going from childhood and through adolescence and now, into adulthood and being on your own and everything, like what has the play of energies and, have you had a homecoming back to yourself in the ways that I have? Or was that even necessary? Maybe it's not necessary for everybody. It's always, good perspective and a good journey, but what's it like for you?
Mm-hmm. For me on my journey, there has been an interesting blend of, and maybe this is what it is for everyone. This is just my take on it. There has been an interesting blend of heart work and also an extension of hard work that feels more masculine. Perhaps that's a word for it. Um, because I feel that my heart drives everything. Uh, yeah, it's just been very interesting, just my unique journey of my heart's opening and how that has looked at certain times. At times, maybe that has looked uh, like I'm separating myself from the world and separating myself from um, societal conditioning and programming and just all of the muck. And other times it's been opening myself into some of the things that maybe I started to reject for whatever reason. And so, yeah, that's a general share.
Okay. Okay, I hear you. So, if I can ask, what is it like now, as a man in your 20s doing all of the internal work that you have done? You've shared a lot with me, which and I hold all of that in dear reverence because right, the deepest work of being a human, it's not easy stuff. But for you to be in your sacred masculinity and cracking that wise heart open. How is that experience currently for you?
Currently, that's a good
Currently.
question.
Yeah, I mean, it's always such a journey, right?
Yeah, yeah. For me, what's actually come up like currently, uh, is one, a lot of inner child work. And that term, in my observation, is tossed around a bit.
Which term?
Uh,
Inner child work?
yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe that's just my perception of it.
Okay.
Although I heard a lot about inner child work and healing your inner child and all of these things, and for a while it was more so a concept or a chore or a task for me to do,
Hmm.
in order for me to achieve some external result. Um, and so for that reason, it was something that uh, I didn't pay that much attention to. All the while, I will say in the background, as I've been doing my work, as I've been meeting myself in different places, communicating with myself in different ways and soothing myself in different ways, and just showing up to life in different ways. I was doing that work the whole time. I have been doing that work
Mm.
the whole time, the reparenting and all of that. Although, as of this recent season for me, I've actually come to be able to experience my relationship with my inner child as an actual relationship that is palpable, um, where I can actually uh, experience the communication, where it actually feels like I'm in a relationship with another human, and it requires that I show up in certain ways, um, in ways that are trustworthy, in ways that honor the relationship, in ways that repair, um, anywhere where I have lost trust. Um, and so that's been very interesting for me. Just actually, this is one aspect of something that I've been moving through, is just like actually experiencing that inner child relationship as an actual relationship, and yeah, there has come a deeper feeling or sense of wholeness,
Hmm.
and unification within me. uh yeah, it is beautiful, because like I see this transition reflected outside of me in many different ways, whether it be viewing children, actual children, in a different way, and experiencing more of an open heart with them. Um, Even looking at pictures of a younger version of myself, actually feeling something in my body of like, I actually love this kid. Um, and so yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And I hear you on the part of when that inner child work at some points seems like a chore, right? I also, for years and years had been like hearing about it, and you've got to do the inner child work, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And hearing in the spiritual communities how how much you got to do it, it really, I never wanted to do it. I never even wanted to like understand what that is and picture what it is, because just the energy that came from externally being told what you're supposed to do to heal yourself, it didn't feel right, you know. For me, how this inner child work has really been is like me going back into my childhood and going back into peaceful moments and sometimes not peaceful moments, and just like really really residing there, and almost to a point where I feel like I could be a time traveler, where like
Mhm.
I could go right now and I could be in my grandma's house or in my grandma's garden, and I feel like I could be there in perfect peace all day and just hang out there for eternity. Like I almost feel like I can zoom back into all of these memories that are being returned to me. It also feels like where I can travel back into any of these moments and feel the harmony, or if there wasn't harmony, I can create harmony. I didn't know that this is what that inner child work was. This was just like an organic process for me that was really just, it would happen on its own during COVID, you know, because I had so much isolation, so many very late nights, and so much time just to be with myself. And, you know, to have those times where there weren't other voices, it lets you really just hear the voice of God, or whatever term fits best, right? And to really just go deep inside. However, one thing that I have found in my journey of journeying back in time is that my adolescence, maybe up until like age 9, it's like from 9 until 13 or 14, that's where it's a bit blurrier. And I don't know why it's blurrier. It's harder to remember. And I still maybe even just come back to what I was saying earlier, and I'm just thinking about this now, of, you know, as the body becomes more polluted, did my reality as a child become more distorted, or is that clouding my remembrance of those certain years? Like it's far easier for me to tap into younger childhood, and it's curious. So like over these last months I've been working to go deeper back into, again, like, you know, age 10 or 9 or 10 to 14, and there's just less to remember somehow, or it seems. Do you have any
Mhm.
like reflection like that within your own experience of going back in time within yourself?
Mhm. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for doing that work. Um,
Likewise.
be,
Likewise, oh my goodness.
mhm. Because we can consider our inner child as being quantum, just like any other aspect of ourself. And if we consider it in that way, that like there are also there are trapped emotions there. There
Mm.
can be trapped emotions there, and things that can be resolved. And if resolved by like venturing into that portal, and like I do get that it can sound fragmenting, right? It can sound like it's not a grounded approach to life, and I totally hear that, and I honor that. I really do. uh, and um, my experience is that there's just a palpability that comes from venturing into those inner realms, um and in like if you were to so like for example, like I can think back to certain memories that maybe were painful or where something wasn't expressed, whatever. uh there have been moments like where even just like thinking about something that is seemingly way over there, I can actually experience something coming up like through my heart and through my body, like a release. And
Wow.
so it can seem like it's over there, and it's now. It's just now. And it can all be considered soul retrieval, and reclaiming these aspects of self that are looping in certain painful themes and dynamics that correspond with certain perceptions and things that we overlay onto our reality in this moment. And so I actually had, to answer your question deeper, I had a session like this recently, where I dove in and did some of that travel. And so what I'm sensing right now is that I won't share deeply about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and of itself seems to be an example of me honoring the relationship with my inner child and recognizing that some aspect of me may be inner child who maybe wants to feel more security and trust in our relationship, would prefer, given that this experience was recent, would prefer that I don't share about it whenever it's that fresh. And so in that sense, like it's no different than any other relationship.
That is so special. Your articulation of that, like that. Thank you for that. That hits my heart. That hits my heart really strongly. Like in that share of yours, you're helping me learn what it is to build trust with the child within me. And I mean, for me, like the child within me, that term actually never really fits, but it's more of a time traveling thing. Like when you said that inner child is quantum, I hadn't, like, of course it is, but that had not hit home like that until you said that. And when you spoke of actually like cultivating that trust with the child that you were, the child that is quantum still here within us, that it's really beautiful to hear you not overshare at a time where your inner child isn't ready for the certain situations to be shared. And that's, I think, that's honorable, the way that you are honoring yourself.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Very, very honorable, the way that you are treating the quantum self, that you are not treating, that you are caring for, that you are protecting, that you are nurturing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. And something a mentor of me recently shared, she used the word telepathic in terms of how some of the communication can happen. So it's like, for me, sometimes I hear clear words that I can point, like I know they're from the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I open myself to that, or I don't want to say, if I inquire into communication, I'm able to tell for the most part what it is, right? Is it just like
Yeah.
a mind? Is it just like some thought, or is it actually coming from that like deeper place? Um, there was something else I was going to say. I don't
That's
know.
okay. That's okay. I
um,
feel like, oh, sorry, go on. If you remember, but I feel like
yeah,
there's something I'm supposed to ask you.
yeah. I feel good about bringing the inner child conversation to this, and something that I was going to close with. So this is what it
Okay.
was. um, so yeah, it just touches on the reality that I experienced for some time, and I'm honoring it for what it was. This is just
Yeah.
where I was at. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that for a while, I perceived my relationship with my inner child as oh, I'm gonna go have fun today. I'm gonna go treat myself to something. I'm gonna go, like more so focusing on like the joyful, fun, adventurous aspects of like the inner child and saying, oh yeah, my relationship with my inner child is great.
Yeah.
um, and it's like that's wholesome. That's beautiful work. Um, and if we're really gonna talk about a relationship here, it also involves the uncomfortable things, the painful things, the you know the rest of the emotional spectrum, and showing up in those ways also for the child who, yes, can have lots of fun and whatever, has what creative abilities, whatever it may be, and that child that also feels abandoned and rejected and betrayed and hurt and isolated and whatever it may be.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I honor all of that. Yeah. I haven't really ever had conversations about the inner child stuff. It's
Yeah.
nothing that I've really ever like communicated much about, it's just something that's kind of like naturally been unfolding, and it just unfolds inside. And yeah, were there any, I want to ask you quick, were there any rules about life that you started adopting at a certain age that really influenced you? Because just like listening, for me, listening to both of us, I keep just coming back to, there was some point in my adolescence where I learned that it wasn't safe to be playful anymore.
Mm.
And I just really see like that was a theme for a long time for me, of like not to express, but not to play. Like even how, you said that you were uncomfortable to really laugh out loud and really like embody your voice in that way, because laughter is just, it's something that is as primal as it is joyful. Right. You and I have been
Mm.
talking about laughs and how we can't even decide what our laugh is going to be like. Like our most genuine laugh is just like, it's our laugh. Right.
Mhm.
Did you learn, were you, somehow taught any backwards rules, any inverted little rules that you've had to rectify? I mean, surely we learn so many, but did you have a main one like me where it's like, it's not safe to play. It's not safe to look playful because I might be a fool. I might look foolish. I might look silly. I might not look like how other kids look. Was there anything like that for you?
Mm.
Like I've had to relearn how to play and how to allow anybody to witness me in my playfulness. That maybe that's a good way to put it. Not letting
Yeah,
people witness
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so that is beautiful, um, and that's also very interesting too, because like that's been a theme for me too, to some degree.
Mhm.
Although it's just interesting to notice the difference perhaps between like uh my like male form versus your female form, and you opening into like that playfulness, maybe more like feminine expression, where for
Yeah.
me, again, like that definitely has been some of the work for me, although something that I personally was disconnected with for a while was my inner authority, um actually being able to stand for myself, to stand in my body, to own my body, to not allow myself to be a doormat, and to just take shit. Um, uh, which at times I felt from those closest to me, and in some ways allowed like a very subtle uh, abuse to happen, right? And I don't want to use that word lightly. Um,
Mhm.
just like a subtle degradation of my inner authority, and so um, I suppose that was like an unconscious rule for a while, until I and it kind of ties back into what I spoke of previously about, like, almost like the different expressions of the heart opening. It's like the heart can open into play and it can open into something like fierce.
Right?
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and they can both feel equally opening. And so, uh, for me, definitely some small, which felt like big, and big initiations that called me into that inner authority. Yeah,
okay,
and it feels good.
yeah. For how long have those inner initiations been coming, bringing you into your authority?
As of now, it feels like a theme that has been resolved to a great extent. I can't sit here and say that I'm totally healed of absolutely everything ever. I feel like there are maybe small remnants here and there of just opportunities to just own my decision making, for example, without, you know fear of judgment or whatever. Although, there definitely were some moments and initiations on my path that felt more heated as I was really on the brink of, like, of playing with and integrating that energy for the first time. So standing up to certain people, like, that was life changing. And like that was life changing in terms of, like, opening my heart, opening my throat. Uh, that was big. And it's interesting because I actually heard a quote maybe a month ago or something. It was like, don't allow yourself to be pushed around or bullied or whatever. And once you stand up for yourself the first time, you'll never have to do it again. I was like,
Ooh. Oh, that's good. That's
yeah, that's
good. Is that what has proven true for you since that experience?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
So, okay, so hang on. So, is it that, like, me as a woman hearing that, it's like, okay, that sounds really powerful. And at the same time, and I don't know if this is because I'm a woman, in my head the story is that it is, but where I've had to, like, set boundaries with people in my life, but then comes a time I have to reset it and
Oh
reset it
yeah.
again and set it more strongly again and set it more strongly again. So do you mean more like that, or do you mean like, nah, once I started standing up for myself, I'm just here. I'm just here,
Mm.
and this is what you get. And I'm always have my own back, because that quantum little child, and as much as, oh, side note, like the quantum child, I can also feel the quantum elder in me. I can feel the 90-year-old version of me. Can you do that too? But anyways, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
mean to do a
yeah, yeah,
tangent.
yeah, yeah. So those experiences, so I'm speaking of a few different ones that are, like, they showed up differently, just the ones that are coming to mind.
Yeah.
Uh, each of them certainly set an entirely different baseline for my inner authority, like entirely different, to the point where, yes, like, there truly is no going back. Like, I'm stationed somewhere different. Like, it's like, that's what it is. um and I definitely do agree with you that there have been invitations, um to just own myself even deeper, really. Right. And really just, I mean, we can consider it a process of refinement, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, and so I believe you asked something else.
Oh, about, I mean, when we were talking about the quantum
Uh,
child to your inner quantum elder.
oh yes.
Because if the quantum child exists, the quantum elder must exist. Or would that only be if our natural human lifespan takes us into elderhood?
Yeah. So that's interesting. And so I feel like a way that I definitely feel, I don't want to say definitely, you know,
Well, you do
some
definitely
some
feel.
conscious yeah, yeah, I definitely feel. Uh I feel deeply like a deep emotional telepathic connection with my inner child. And I mean, I'm just tossing words out at this point. I'm just tossing words out. So when it comes to like my relationship with like my elder self or whatever, I mean, they're definitely, it's important to have some discernment around like what I'm actually connecting to. And so I haven't sought out a connection or anything like that. And there hasn't been anything that's presented itself to me that resonates as something palpable or worth listening to or attuning with.
Yeah.
Although when it comes to like some of my decision making, there are many just like logical questions that I can ask myself. Uh, and maybe this is just my masculine orientation. Because I feel like I don't know if there's like any like necessarily like emotional work or processing to be done from like that vantage point with that aspect of self. Um, for me, basically, if I'm moving through something, there are some questions that I can ask myself that just I call them questions for discernment,
Mm-hmm.
that can help me make things clear and make a decision that I feel is just like the highest decision on behalf of all of myself, just like myself, my true being. Um, and so in prayer and just in relationship with myself, like that's something that I bring attention to is like true being, like highest mind in union with my highest heart. Um, and calling upon like the force which breathes my breath and beats my heart. And really just like just praying from a place of very clear intention in what I would like to communicate with. Uh, and so in that type of prayer and that type of inquiry, and also through asking certain questions, that tends to be my way of going about navigating if maybe I don't feel that peace and coherence that we were speaking of earlier.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, I hear you. With your questions for discernment, is that something that you can like, could you share your questions? Because
Yeah, of
I
course.
know that, so many people that I know, and surely a lot of people that, tune into this podcast.
Yep.
You good? Surely a lot of them, a lot of people have trouble discerning what is truly in their highest good, on all levels, because this world that we live in, this matrix that we live in, you know? So what are the questions that you ask yourself in order to
Yeah.
create greater discernment that you can trust when that piece just isn't there, when it's not as clear? How do you go
Mhm.
about it?
Yeah. So I actually wrote some of these down last night.
Oh, I love
Um,
it.
so what came up first is, what would the hero do in this situation? What would the hero do? Uh, and for me, that tends to attune me with a more soulful quality. Um, Again, with all of these, it's like, even with the questions for discernment, like, have discernment. It's like not everything applies. Like, it's just everyone's process is different, and we all require different things at different times. So, uh, question two: which choice clings more to illusion? Can be a powerful question. Three: what if there was a right answer? It can be an illuminating one.
Hmm.
What if there was no wrong answer? That one can be a little a little more gentle, maybe a little less masculine and righteous, and give someone permission to open into what their truth is.
Yeah.
Uh, Whereas the other one can give room to have someone step into that more masculine expression and like own and claim their truth, like as if there is a right answer. For me, one of the it was my experience of dropping out of college, which was like that was a big initiation for me. Uh, and so some of these questions I actually asked myself during that. Um, if this happened over and over again until I became free, what would I choose? So this brings attention to uh, potential holding patterns and loops that we may get caught into, and basically fragment ourselves, fragment our being, um, by avoiding something. Uh, Question number 6: what would my soul choose? Um, which decision would I respect more?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which decision would I be able to which decision would inspire more trust within me, trust that I have for myself? Um, so yeah, those are some questions. There are some more that I don't have written down. I have them written down somewhere. Um, Although, yeah, my process for navigating some of these things is like, one, asking the right questions, which can open the body, in my experience, to different uh, ways of experiencing the truth and coming face to face with what is. And also just through like, I know you, Ivy, are well uh, aware of the reality, not the truth, the reality of spiritual warfare. Uh, and when I say, in that distinction that I share, just for the listeners, something that I like to say is, uh, because there was a time where I got very caught up in this uh, rabbit hole of like just seeing spiritual warfare basically everywhere and like pasting that onto my reality. And it's like, yes, spiritual warfare is a reality. We can even consider it a truth, although it's with a lowercase t. It is not the truth. Like,
Mm.
there's something beyond the warfare. There's a reason why the warfare is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So well said. Go on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so basically, you know, that like, yeah, like I said, I know Ivy is well aware of that reality. And so there have been certain choice points in my reality where they felt, I mean, everything just was like right front and center. Like it felt like I was on the battlefield. And it was important for me to constantly ask myself these questions in addition to doing whatever is necessary to actually stay in my body and to stay in my authority. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. When you say to stay in your body, do you mean like to stay grounded into the physical human body because we are having this physical experience? Or do you mean like literally staying alive, staying as a soul in a body?
Mm, the
Or
first
both?
one. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, because we can consider that in outsourcing our authority,
Yeah.
we risk losing ourselves to a force, to an intelligence that would like to occupy it for us. And so I'll speak briefly about the college initiation, dropping out of college. So long story short, I dropped out of college in my final semester of college after 4 years. And it was quite the initiation because I was invited to embrace something that was obviously not logical whatsoever, uh, and to choose something deeper anyway,
Mm.
and to choose to step forward. And this felt like a crossing of the threshold where like this was it. Like it actually felt like a life or death situation in which like I either chose my soul or I ended up in a holding pattern that would extend far beyond this body. Like that depth of like spirituality behind it. Uh, and so basically, just to share briefly about it, I got the ping for it was probably like a March afternoon, maybe a little earlier, maybe late February. I got a ping of like you should just leave, and this did correspond with some frustration that I was having about just being there in general,
What
despite it
kind of
being close
program were
to
you in?
technology,
Okay.
um, information technology, and management. Um, And so it was interesting because, you know, I had put up with school for a long time. I had embraced it. You know, I was like, you know, whatever. I don't like it here. I don't want to do it, and I'm going to do it. And so I really embraced that for a long time. And there was one afternoon where I just felt like a frustration for sure, and something pinged into my consciousness of like, you should just drop out. I was like, interesting. So I felt into that. I went on a walk,
And that was
and it
that
was
was the
really
first time that that pinged in, like that actual thought of even it being an option of you dropping out. Did that thought ever
Mhm.
occur before?
That was the first time.
Okay, cool. Go on.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, like interesting. And so it was really fascinating to notice how over the next few days, every time I actually considered that, it like I felt like a peace. I felt like my body like opening. And it was interesting because like as this was happening, I was doing all of this like work with myself, right? Like I was becoming so free in every aspect of my life, in every aspect of my expression, in every current of my expression. I felt so free. And then it felt like there was something in my reality that was just like outdated, and it seemed to be in the way. And so what I will share as a disclaimer is like, despite me in hindsight seeing like how I technically could have grown from making either decision, I'm very glad that I made the one that I did, because like, period. They're like, I would definitely make it again. Anyway, though,
Yeah.
anyway, I really felt into that reality, into that potential for a while in terms of dropping out and saying like, yeah, like I'm gonna do it. And there were many obstacles to that, perceived obstacles in terms of my parents and telling them and all of that. Like there was a lot that came up, and there came a point where like even walking to class, like walking to class, it felt like I was out of integrity. Like it almost felt like it was like forbidden.
Wow.
It was like why are you doing this? Like I couldn't even like get that out of my consciousness. It was why are you walking to class right now? And same thing, like if I'd be in class and I'm just sitting here trying to finish the assignments, because I'm just trying to finish the assignments so that I can graduate and leave and whatever. And so if I would ask the teacher a question, like getting help for the assignment, even opening my mouth and asking the question, at times it felt like I was like pulled out of my body and just like observing myself ask that question. I was like, why are you asking why are you why? Like and it was so this started to happen, and what happened actually is that I gaslit myself. So I was feeling that for about a month, and I did have a conversation with my dad. I was like, yeah, dad, like, this is how I've been feeling. And I actually came into the conversation from a place of not being in my authority. I was actually still, I was not in my authority. And so I was very subject to other people's opinions. Uh, and, and just pretty much any external influence. And so that, on top of other, you know, stimuli, and reading and information and podcast, whatever it may be that I was doing at that time, I actually gaslit myself, and I was like, you know what, like I think what I needed was to just be more grateful for this experience. And there was some truth to that. Like it was actually very heart opening to say like, yeah, you know what, like just finish it out, like like just be more grateful for this, like whatever. And for like about a week, like that actually felt really good. And then the nudge came back.
Yeah.
It came back, and that's when it really started to get my attention, because I started to feel that misintegrity again in my decision making. And it just seemed like something that I couldn't ignore. And it seemed like the more that I considered the reality of stepping into dropping out, in my body, I felt more peace. In my mind, the spiritual battlefield, there was more chaos.
Yeah.
So it was like this wild pressurization of like, I know on a very deep level that I'm being called here. It felt like how activated my body felt in even just considering that reality of leaving. Sometimes my body felt like a battery. Like it actually felt like it that's how much energy was coming into me. Uh and there were times where it just felt like even considering the reality, like it would almost feel like I was on a psychedelic. Like just
Wow.
considering it.
Yeah.
Like just like that pure presence that was like calling me forward into it. And so as I inched closer and closer to making that decision, obviously, like I could see both timelines like overlaying themselves onto the reality that I was perceiving. So I would see like a quote unquote synchronicity for like each timeline. There was a lot that came up that we can call it spiritual warfare. We can call it whatever we want to call it. There was just a lot happening. um,
Was it confusing for you, or was it more so just really, really growing and honing your discernment of timelines and choices? Or was it actually like the confusion or the, emotional shitstorm? I'm also a university dropout.
mm,
Dropped out in I think year 3.5.
um,
Or was it, how much of it was what your parents want, what your father wants, what those external expectations, or was there even fear for you of, well, if I don't continue on this path and I'm so close, whatever, what would happen if I don't? Like what was the internal experience? What were all the variables that you needed to weigh to come to your discernment? Or was it just a matter of tapping into the piece of the body and like what, because your body wisdom was telling you what the best thing is, right? Whereas the mind is full.
mhm. Thank you for sharing that and for inquiring.
Yeah.
So there was never any doubt or fear within me as to what would happen if I actually did it. There is a deep trust in terms of I'll be just fine without a college degree. Like, 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 like,
Amazing.
like, truly, I'm okay. Um, they actually ended up giving me the degree anyway because it was
Oh.
very close. uh,
Oh, you got the
uh,
best of both worlds.
they
That's
yeah
so
they
cool.
yeah they gave me the piece of paper. um,
So you
so anyway, yeah. So the dominant perceptions that were coming up for me that were contributing to confusion were basically the parental family pressure that was big. That was big. um and perceptions and ideas that corresponded with that of like, come on, like the very logical stuff, right? Like, you've come so far, you've come so, like, just finish, only 2 more months. All that like came up, and I couldn't see that because all I could see was the misintegrity, and all I could feel was the misintegrity. And what I could also see is, if I don't stand for myself now, this is only going to show up somewhere else later. and like it's like this current must be honored, or else I would be in a holding pattern, and that would have soulful consequences. And I was not willing to experience that. And so basically, as I inched myself closer to making that decision, like sometimes the mental chatter was so loud, like it was, I was listening to like no music. I was listening to no podcasts. There was way too much noise. Sometimes I would literally like, I'd have to like go get in a cold shower and be like, I just have to like be here and to know presence in my body, because it felt like presence was the only thing that was really going to get me to a place of clarity. And not gaslighting myself, which is what I ultimately realized I was doing. And so basically, it's actually interesting because right before I made the decision, uh, I flew to see my family for my sister's hockey game in Philadelphia, the city of Independence, which I thought was interesting. Um, and flew in, and this was like, I hadn't made the decision yet. I knew what I wanted to do on a deep level. It's just that there was deep resistance, and it was very interesting because I was being called to like be there with my family. This trip just happened to come up. Just happened to come up. So I was like, okay. So I flew down there and saw them, and it was at that point, like all signs were pointing to like, I know what I need to do, and it's just about me actually having the courage to do it. Um, and so I had several conversations with them throughout the weekend. Uh, Still not really in my place of authority, more so just expressing like my feelings and where I was coming from. Um, and I actually didn't make the decision while I was there. I made it on my flight back, I believe. And then I made the decision and I did it. And whenever I did it was this very pure, primal presence, this nowness that I felt I had never experienced before in this body. It was there nothing compared to, I mean, other than like a psychedelic experience, maybe, in terms of just like, yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow. What a journey coming to that discernment in yourself, right? Coming to it from the body space, the heart space, the mind space, setting your own boundaries and being in your sovereignty, even when your family has feels, right? Peers probably
Mhm.
have feels. Like that's so powerful. And how brilliant is making the life-changing decisions on a flight home. Like, just even when you said that, it takes me to certain flights when I've been on a flight, up in the air, ungrounded from the planet, but in like, sometimes things can be different when you're on a plane. You kind of get to like access a different realm, I find, at least. And like, I've made some very strong resolving decisions for myself and my own sovereignty and my own boundaries and my own ferocity for my own
Mm,
life while on a plane ride home. I love that you shared that. So,
yeah.
so what was it like then making the decision and executing the decision in your
Oh,
freedom, in your sovereignty, regardless of what mom, dad, sister says? How was that?
yeah. So one, thank you for sharing about your own experiences with that, and just coming to your own inner authority. Uh, One thing I do want to share too is that for those listening who could benefit from just like here's another question for discernment that like this one actually helped me make the decision. And so I'm realizing that I made the decision before I got to Philadelphia. Um, the question that helped me make the decision was, and this was a mentor of mine who was helping me at the time. She asked me this question. She was like, "What is your organic choice?" And it was as simple as that. It was as simple as that. it was as simple as that. Like what is my organic choice? My organic choice is I want to leave. That's just what it was. Um, and so to answer your question, I chose to, in that moment, to take full responsibility for my reality. So previous to that decision, I was receiving help from my dad with money and things like that. And I was like, Dad, like I would just like for you to no longer send me money. Like that was just that was just how I put it. I was like, it felt good for me to actually just take responsibility for everything, because in making that decision, I was taking responsibility for my body,
Yeah.
for where I put my body. And so it felt good to just take responsibility for everything. Like I would like to take responsibility for my finances and for everything here on out. And
Wow.
so, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So it felt good to, yeah, to just say, you know what, it was exciting. You know, I was like, yeah, like I'm excited to, it felt very raw at times. It
Yeah.
felt very raw, like actually just being in the world, like just facing things as they come. And there were definitely periods of irresponsibility for sure, in terms of just not knowing any better about certain things. um Although I'm very grateful that ultimately I have been able to reach a place in my relationship with my parents where there's just like love and appreciation and respect. I know that my dad obviously didn't agree with the decision, although our relationship did shift after that in a way that at first was a bit distant. Although afterwards, it did seem like we were able to grow closer. And I can't speak for him in terms of what he was totally experiencing on his side.
Hmm.
Although, uh, what I'm assuming is that maybe it was interesting to notice a child just go through like what's needed for them in order to grow and to mature and to, you know, experience this spiritual reality.
Yeah. That's a huge experience. Thank you so much for sharing. I feel like there's so much value in what you shared. You know, I, I know that when I was in university, my partner at the time, there was a lot of pressure from his parents, about like staying in and being an accountant and, all of the things, and witnessing somebody that wasn't in their power and wasn't in their authority, and what that external pressure does spiritually, when you're doing something that you don't want to do. And even for myself as a university dropout, like it was hard. My mom had a lot of feels about it, but then to really stand in what you know is right. But you think of how many people right now are caught up in the university system, in the college system, right? All of that debt from it, having a degree that so many people don't end up using, or maybe even just, a conversation for people who are in the jobs that don't feel good, the jobs that are like sucking their soul out, around parasitic industries or whatever it is. Like, thank you for sharing your process of discernment and your process of standing in sovereignty with yourself. It sounds like you did it with a lot of grace, as much as could be had in a situation like that. And,
Mhm.
it sounds like you really took the time and the energy to contemplate and to do the multidimensional work that it takes to be in that situation, to be on that trajectory. And then, soul is like, hey buddy, actually the plan is different. Right? Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to like, are you willing to really listen and really feel and to take responsibility for, you're here for something that isn't what you're actually on the path for right now, right? Like,
Mhm.
your articulation of that journey, I think, is really valuable, because I know that there's so many people who are in that place of needing to make that change for their own health of their soul.
Mm.
and
Mm.
and right, a lot of people have a lot of pressure, a lot of people have a lot of, external um obligation, projections. I mean, you know how it goes. Do you have
Mhm.
any, what would your words, I won't say do you have any words of wisdom, because I know that you do. So, what would your words of wisdom for somebody that's either in the university situation or in the job situation where it's like, they're going every day, and like you said, I'm walking myself to this place, and the direction that I'm physically allowing my body to walk is one of not integrity for myself.
Mhm. That's a great question. And first, I'll just say that I'm honoring your path as well, in
Thank
that
you.
um, you're just, it's clear that it required you facing some big gnarly things
Yeah.
in order for you to be the embodiment that you are. And it's reflected in some of your seemingly smaller decisions. And so that's something that I can share is, so what came up is that we are given choice points every single day and every single moment, really. Uh, and we can consider these choice points as being either soulful or, removing ourselves from our true being, or just, we can even take out that language. It's like, what's integral, what's supportive, because I do think it's important to uh, be aware of a part of us that may want to chase this hyper spiritualized ideal of what being connected with God is, or like whatever. Like I've definitely been, I've navigated some of those waters of being very ungrounded in this reality, and almost like trying to create spiritual work for myself in places where there wasn't really spiritual work. It was just dancing and weird stuff in the upper realms instead of actually taking responsibility for my the reality. um, so I definitely trust that whoever is listening is just listening to yeah, just honoring whatever is actually coming up and whatever is actually true. And so like I said, what came up is like, there are these choice points every day that we have. Although there are truly some choice points, and we can say these about all of these technically. We can say this about all of them. Although there are some choice points, there are some opportunities that are truly once in a lifetime. Like, that's it. And some of those choices can create an entirely different baseline for how we experience life. And so, a question that I have asked myself in the past is, how much access would I like to have to myself?
Mm.
That has helped me with some decision making. How much access would I like to have to myself? Uh, that's a question that helped me move back in with my mom uh, whenever that was required for my journey. It was like, yeah, it was uncomfortable to come to that decision and to make it. It was like, okay, though, like there's a big difference in how much access I have to myself if I choose to go back and live with my mom and to resolve the emotional debris there and whatever. There's a difference between the access that I have to myself there versus living with that residual energy, that looping, whatever it is, for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'll drop that for now.
That's that's great. Thank you. Thank you. That's very vulnerable and it's very helpful. I feel for others. And that's really beautiful that you had the spiritual wisdom and wherewithal to do that work with your mother, right? To recognize if I don't do this work, what does that lead to, right? What type of bondage do we live in? And even what would her experience be without that work, right? I really commend you for healing energies with your mom.
Mm,
I think like
yeah.
healing the energies with our parents is can be, I think, such a supportive aspect in us learning how to reparent ourselves as well. At least for me, it has been. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. There was something I was going to say. It slipped, so it doesn't want to come
Okay. Oh, you're
up.
good. You're good. It'll come
um,
back if it comes back. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, spiritual warfare. So you and I, we've both been through a bit of the uh like I appreciate how you talk about spirituality and you do it from the grounded place of recognizing the spiritual warfare, recognizing how much I'm going to use the word delusion for lack of better words that there is present within the spiritual communities and spiritual movements. And for over the last decade, even there's been such a rise in all of these different spiritual communities. Do you want to go ecstatic dancing? Do we want to go to sensual cacao ceremonies? Do we want to go do ayahuasca? All of the different things that pulls people spiritually in all of the different directions. And I've dabbled, but I've always like come back to like myself in my solitude as like my own home base, because just my own discernment was like there isn't actually anything in these different realms for me or within these different groups that actually feels appropriate soulfully for me. When I would look at all of these other aspects of spiritual living that I could go and participate with, and I can go stick some labels on myself, recognizing that I can feel like there's little places within the energetic foundations of things that might lack integrity. Wait, not might, that do in my discernment. Let me go, right? I think part of being in the most discerned and holy of light energy means that we have to be willing and courageous enough to actually call out darkness when darkness is present.
Mhm.
But I really appreciate the way that you verbalize your own discernment within spiritual forces when so many people, in my experience, I witnessed get like caught in these different spiritual loops that are not what they say that they are. You know what I mean.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
What's your journey been like
Yeah.
moving through those things where, again, so many people do get caught up not recognizing sometimes the forces that we're actually participating with?
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely do appreciate your lens on this, and just your ability to observe this and to acknowledge that reality, instead of shying away from it, or yeah, pretending that it's not there, or just bypassing in some way. So I definitely do appreciate that about you, and that it doesn't seem like you have hidden from that, um, and yeah, like I really, yeah, I resonate deeply with people who I feel, or who I sense, are here to go all the way. And I'm not saying that to go quote unquote all the way means that you have to look at life in a certain way. Although it is of benefit if you have a well-rounded perspective, in which you're not dominated by shadows and things that are hiding. Um, and yeah, and also, just for clarity, when I say all the way, I'm not speaking of a linear spiritual path that at times I will say I have got caught up into. And that in and of itself can be considered like, we can consider that like, and this is what I like to bring, right? It's like a balanced perspective. It's like acknowledging that some things can be considered spiritual warfare, and it can just be like, just like distraction, like anything that's a distraction to returning. Because I like to say return, like
Ooh.
instead of like a linear path to this certain destination, which again I've gotten caught up into many times previously, of like thinking I have to fast myself to death in order to make it to God, or whatever it may be. There have been many different things. It's like, it's not a linear path, it's returning. It's like literally turning to God. That's it. It's just, that's it.
It's a pivot. It's a
Yes.
repivoting. Pivot again and again and again after each new point of reference that you bring in. Go on.
Yes, and nothing else. Like, that's it. It's just returning.
Yes.
And that requires, for me, that has required like many, just facing many different things in many different ways, right? It's like, on one, one period on my journey, I was, again, like I said, very much caught in the linear trajectory. Like, I got to get to God. I got to get to God. I got to get to God. And we can consider that like just the getting caught up in something that was not in my highest integrity. Yeah, we can say it was of benefit to my evolution. It was of benefit in returning home to myself. Um,
Was it a necessary part of the journey?
of course,
Good.
and
Yes.
everything was, uh, yeah. What's coming? What's front and center for me right now is just like bringing awareness to the shadow. I believe is like it's necessary. It's necessary because we can consider that these forces, these intelligence sees whatever,
Yeah.
these things, these entities, these points of consciousness, whatever, we can consider that they take advantage of our blind spots, and our blind spots tend to correspond with well, first and foremost, they're just something that we can't see until we see them. And they tend to correspond with our trauma and just unresolved stuff within us, that is blocking us from our own nourishment and gnosis and union with just the fullness of what we are. And so, I won't speak on the actual experience, although there was an experience on my path where I actually witnessed myself be hijacked by something that was not holy. I witnessed myself be hijacked by this thing through my own trauma. And it's like, so there was the emotional experience, right? Rooted in the trauma. And then there was the mind, like the mental aspect of it, that justified the spirit, the energy, whatever, coming in and basically acting through me in a way that is not something that I would do again. Like, yes, I grew, I learned, and I wouldn't do it again. If I was in my full just embodiment, like, no, of course. And so, I know I'm sharing a lot here. Yeah, just bringing light to the shadow, and recognizing that there are vantage points, there are loopholes that it is supportive if we're devoted to becoming aware of everything that is not truly like in our highest good, highest integrity, highest clarity, highest health, highest well-being,
Yeah.
highest inner union.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Uh, it sounds like it's been a lot, the journey. I mean,
Yeah.
and congratulations on that at the same time. Oh, I know it's not the easy work, but it's for you, it's not possible to bypass the work, right? Because every time that you're in a situation where that work clearly is presenting itself, right, through whatever type of suffering or imbalance we're experiencing, right?
Mhm.
For you, there's never a point of bypassing it,
Yeah.
right? And that's just the code of internal integrity to why you're even here, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that I'll say is like, when it comes to the whole spiritual warfare thing, like just to like have like a clear conversation about it, like, it has been necessary for me to have that lens as I navigate this life, because otherwise I would have been taken.
Right?
There's just, I mean, because the whole like distorted spirituality of like, just keep your heart open. We're meant to open. Anger is bad.
Yeah, it's
All of
only
these
love
things.
and light. It's only love and it's only light, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, like, I noticed that within myself, and I'm glad I did when I did, or else, you know, I would have ended up in some places that I'm just glad I'm, I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm also thankful for this experience, right? The experience of embodiment that I have, and the soulfulness that I experience. And it's like, for example, if we take the college experience, it's like, if I hadn't made that choice, and I'll put it this way, me making that choice made the whole vaccine decision and the societal and peer pressure around it, that was a piece of cake. You know what I like? It wasn't even like it was like an ant,
Yeah.
and so generally that perspective of like acknowledging warfare, acknowledging a battle for my ability to experience God through this body, through this vessel, and to just like rehabilitate myself and to experience love here. That perspective has been very helpful. And with that, you know, it's been important for me to balance it and to not be as sucked in, because again, like I mentioned earlier, there have been times where like that actually has created previously more fear and paranoia, which is actually like the very thing that I was, you know, looking to neutralize.
Wow. Wow. No, I hear you. So when we show up for the important battles in our sovereignty and create the decision with discernment and greatest alignment available for us, that changes the playing field of future battles, doesn't it? Right? Like as you were saying, it's like you chose, you discerned and you made the most proper decision for your soul as far as like when it comes to university. And then that there paved the way for you to just breeze through other battles where other people were not able to breeze through those battles, right?
To a considerable extent. Yeah. Um like sometimes yes, and sometimes, you know, there has still been like, you know, like the whole like mom thing, like going back living with her, like that was, I will say it was easier for me to, I don't even want to say that. Like it was kind of easier for me to be aware of what I needed to do.
Yeah.
There was still a lot of resistance, although like depending on the theme and like what's coming up, like yeah, for me, yes, it has been easier. Um, and so I'm curious to ask you about your experience with this theme, with this topic, with spiritual warfare, as we're calling it.
Oh, my experience with it. Hmm. Well, I shared with you when we were talking and when we were praying before we got onto this podcast, um, that, you know, you and I, we've been cycling through some of the same, what would you say? I don't want to say spiritual literature. That's not the right wordings at all. But we've been both privy to informational databases that makes sense for us, like on a spiritual level, you know? And so this stuff I kind of started diving into probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And so, right when we start learning about our reality, or when I started learning about this reality, that's when I started really understanding the forces at play. I remember it was probably like December 2013 when the idea that there are actually dark forces and that it isn't just all love and light. Because you know, I went the route of yoga. I dropped out of university in 2009 and I found yoga and you know, all of the things that you find after that. But it was still very much how everything is just so spiritual and everything is just love and anger is bad and you shouldn't feel bad. Everything should just feel good, right? So there was that reality. And then I remember it was December 2019 and a girlfriend really started opening me up to things because she was very galactic minded, you know, very open my eyes to things where I was like, what? There's negative entities. What? The world is actually has a lot of darkness. What? You know, all of those things for me, like to really recognize I did not have the eyes to see whatsoever. So to begin seeing what is actually real and to begin feeling it and perceiving it and learning to discern it. Back then it's like that takes a couple years of working on discernment and working on discernment. And on all of that, I did a lot of solo traveling. Like I went and I moved to Kauai for a few years, and Kauai is such a sacred old island where she either like pulls you in or she pulls you in and then spits you out. But like the forces of light and dark that are even present on that island, that's really where I first started learning about spiritual warfare and recognizing its presence within my own reality. And then also, when you begin waking up to these things, just like when you begin parasite cleansing, normally to me, that the darkness that's present around us and sometimes right within us, it kind of goes on like full offensive attack once, it's like, oh my God, she sees us now. She sees us. She feels us. She's aware of us. She wants to eradicate us, whatever the us is. Right. So it was like when I started waking up to it, and then to be able to perceive it and how these energies are influencing my own reality, how there's dark characters coming into my own reality or already present in my reality. Learning to observe it was bizarre because there was a lot of cognitive dissonance. There was a lot in me that did not want to recognize that this dark shit exists, did not want to recognize that there's a lot of darkness in the history of this planet, that there's, we could go on and on and on, but I'm sure, people with their own discernment have whatever idea of that, right? And so acknowledging it and then starting to learn about it. And then as I was learning about it, I start sharing some resources with my ex-husband, who wasn't my ex-husband at the time. And he starts talking to my family members, telling everybody that I'm in a cult, you know? So it was like that spiritual warfare that was more outside of me suddenly began really influencing the people around me. And that was really isolating. It was really alienating. It was a really interesting experience that really, I was building an off-grid cabin in like British Columbia. I was doing all of these things and I thought that I was building my dream. And then what I realized is like, I feel like I'm building a cage for myself. And that's when I needed to go and actually do some traveling on my own. And now even, or how would I even say, like in hindsight, over these last, especially 8 years of traveling on my own, of coming to America, I've been through so many dark initiations, like with, internal forces as I purge these things out of my life, but even in challenging relationships. But I've even had some times, or I mean, like my challenges with the pharmaceutical industry. To me, even that's spiritual warfare that has been waged in my body. But I've also had some like really, really bizarre experiences. Like I traveled alone to Costa Rica, and I was doing like a workaway thing where I was going to be cooking and cleaning for this Bosnian couple. Were they Bosnian? No, they might have been Swedish, somewhere in there. And he was going to teach me massage because he was a massage therapist. But it soon turned into a situation where I'm alone in Costa Rica and I'm massaging this naked man in his 50s, and he's suddenly wanting it to become happy ending massages. And I'm like, alone, so I was suddenly put into a place, and I didn't even know about human trafficking at this point. I did not know how easy it is for a young woman, I was 28, to be literally just like taken. Like now, me looking back, I'm like, oh my God, how did I do that? But it got to a situation where I set boundaries for myself, and like a man tried to come after me. Like I was like needing to book an immediate flight, get my ass out of a country where I was extremely alone, So I had like some weird situations that went suddenly very dark and dangerous really quickly. And even when I was back in Canada, I had this really bizarre situation. Have you ever heard of like the man in black, like a black jacket and like a black top hat with like black eyes? Like supposedly, like there's all of this mythical folklore and things like that around it. But like I was
Uh-huh.
having actual attacks of energy at my home, or at my grandma's house where I was staying, because I was like mid divorce process. And like
Uh-huh.
the craziest situation happened. Like I was awake all night. I couldn't even go downstairs because it was dark. And I heard something, like I was sitting in the kitchen, and it like something at night hit the wall or outside of
Yeah.
right where I was sitting and like scraped along the side of the house. And I was like, what? And then that night, like I slept just in the living room, and I woke up and actually had the what do you call it? Sleep paralysis. Like, I've never
Wow.
had anything like that in my life where it was like I knew that something was attacking me. Like, it took
Mhm.
my voice, it had me, like, almost, like, strangled there, where I had to
Mhm.
wait and try so hard just to be able to allow my body to scream. Like, I've been like, the spiritual warfare has been, like, very subtle and very insidious in many ways, but then over this last decade, I've had just, like, some of these experiences where the darkness is so strong where I'm actually like in my physical body perceiving things that are like paranormal, so dark. I had no idea that any of this stuff was actually real. So I know that that was a really weird tangent, but yeah, like my
Mm.
my journey with spiritual warfare has actually been really, really intense. And most people don't even know about it because I don't talk about it, but I'm aware that this shit is real, and that's where I really learned how to like set the really strong boundaries. Whereas like now I know how to fill my space with light. I know how to protect myself. I know how to command my space. I know how to command my sleep space. I know how to eradicate, and energetically remove anything that is not of God from my space. So, these
Mhm.
experiences, as challenging as they've been and as bizarre and bewildering, they've also, I feel, helped me become like a beast of a spiritual woman, for lack of better words, if I can put it that way. But what about
Yeah.
yourself? Like, with all the spiritual warfare, has it become more tangible or strange or otherworldly or even bizarre at times?
That was a beautiful expression, and it was very cool to hear just like the to hear your voice. And there was just a moment there where you were speaking like with that authority,
Oh,
like
thank you.
in your body, that felt powerful. Um, and yeah, it speaks to the work that you have done around that. Uh, so thank you. Um,
I feel like I made it
so
weird.
what's
Sorry if I took it to like a weirder place than you were expecting.
this is very much in my realm of being able to speak on.
Great.
Um, so one, what came up first for me is that so I like the how you talked about how there may be like external maybe projections of the warfare and being able to see that, and then also recognizing like the inner uh, process of it. And I think that's interesting because for me, one, I do see truth in that. And in my experience, I have experienced previously a lot of it like through me. I
Mm.
experienced a lot of it through me and just noticing how, and again, this is not to dishonor your experience in the like the
Oh,
external, because like that, I mean that's as true for me as well. Um, or it has been true for me. Um, it, so I'll speak on some specific experiences. And they're around the theme of like how there have been moments in the past where if I have been out of integrity with myself, that has been like the crack, the leak in my field that allows for something that I can look at it and be like, that is evil. That is dark. like that's dark. That's even like otherworldly at times, right? And so one is like, so like if we look at this college experience, so for at least 2 months while I was like ruminating on the decision and the whole thing, I was having like dark attacks in my sleep, like pretty much the entire time.
wow.
Where I felt like really in every dream the theme was there'd be like a dark figure, there'd be a dark force, that would enter my field, and then it would feel like I was being suffocated by it. I was being suffocated. And then I'd wake up with my body, and like it was wild. It would actually feel like there was like technology buzzing in my brain. Like it was very, and I'm just, we don't have to talk about the the yeah, some of that stuff.
Dark
Because
shit gets weird sometimes,
I'm pretty
right?
sure we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
um so like that's that, right? So that's been interesting for me, is to like notice, like there have been times in the past where if I've been like massively out of integrity, like massively, to the point where where I'm just ignoring things that would really be in my highest interest to not ignore, that has happened. Something else that I've noticed is, so as I mentioned, there were times where I was giving a lot of attention to some of the darker realities and things like that. And hmm, I'm not going to share in detail about it so as to not fuel it unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically this story is exactly that, in which I was speaking about something and I called it in a way that was almost like it was basically instantaneous. I basically called in the darkness that like I was speaking about. I was recording. I'll share this part. I was in the park. I was in a public park. I was recording a YouTube video in the park, in the middle of the park. There wasn't anyone around, actually, which is what was a little bizarre about it. And I was basically recording about like a Matrix type shit. Like that, like that's just where I was coming from. I was talking about that level of uh data and intel
Mm-hmm.
about the nature of our reality, and basically what is possible in terms of what's happening. And I was approached by someone. I'll just put it like I was actually approached by someone, and this didn't.
Like you were approached by somebody,
Wow.
like somebody in a physical human body.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was approached by yeah, by something that appeared to be human. I can't really say if it
Yeah.
was, to be
Okay.
completely honest.
Well, you,
Like
I'm just saying, like you
I'm
were
just
getting
being
approached by
complete.
something, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there was a lot of fear frequency associated with it. Like it was like if we're gonna talk about like holographic reality and like what is possible through that, I'll just leave it at that. Like that's just what it was, and like that was a little bit of a wake up call for me of like I can talk about this stuff, and like there's just like at what point am I just like, you know, I could poke the bear, and like why did I need to be in the park recording a YouTube video about stuff that some people probably haven't heard of in their life and would be like, wow, that's wild. Um, so anyway, so that's that. And then something that I'll share finally is that, and this is something like really, I think it's a very important perspective, and it means a lot to me. And it's on the topic of how, in my experience, these forces that feed off of, to me it seems like maybe negative human emotions, and more so like negative human behaviors, My relationships with other people, like this reality of like, the reality of spiritual warfare, it inspires me to bring an incredible depth of integrity and transparency and love to all of my relationships, because my experience is that these forces depend on dividing the self and dividing others, like just dividing everything, dividing my relationship and ability to experience love with another person
Mhm.
and a harmonious relationship with another person, and also myself. And so I have had experiences where, like I spoke on this hijacking experience earlier, it's like that was in a relationship with another person. Um, and yeah, there's definitely just yeah, I feel it's very important to just be aware of how that can work through like relationships, um if we're not aware. um
Mm.
yeah.
No, thank you for that. And I mean, I'm sorry for the spiritual warfare that you've been through, especially, the aspects of it that are more challenging, more palpable, more sensating, more fearful. And and at the same time, I'm sure it's also grown you and strengthened you, right? And honed your discernment and honed your perception and even right the ability of your nervous system to be able to discern what is truly light and everything that isn't, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So thank you. I honor everything that you're sharing. And I feel what you just touched on, and that's a place that you and I feel align really strongly, is with integrity. Like integrity truly has to be the absolute baseline that we are ideally within the bandwidth of what is integral at all times. And part of that for me, the integrity, and then just like my code for years has now been integrity, right? In every situation I'm in, how can I learn to be more integral, right? How can I perceive and act and behave and think and feel and perceive from the greatest place of integrity that I'm capable of in each experience? And part of that, it's for so that I am divinely aligned, right? Again, like I said, to be a vessel of God's work and God's work alone. But also, why I choose integrity is protection. Because exactly right, what you started off with saying in this last piece of our conversation is that if we're not in integrity, there's cracks. There's cracks where darkness will come in, right? When we're not in integrity, I feel like our blind spots are just like calling in some darkness, like come over here, come bring some drama, come bring some distortion, come bring in some delusion, come bring in literally some people who with their own blind spots and their own lacking of integrity bring in these aspects so that they can come and create fuckery within our realities, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
like I really
Hmm.
see you in the multidimensional integrity that is there not only for your alignment but for your physical and soulful protection within these days of spiritual warfare.
100%. 100%. That was very well articulated. And it's like, yeah, it is just really bringing attention to that piece of like, it can happen through us as much as it seems like it's happening to us, like like from the outside. um
I feel like that's really important for people to acknowledge, right? That it's because I feel like a lot of people perceive it only coming from the outside and not recognizing how when we have our own blind spots that we can be utilized as tools of darkness if we're not aware of it and like really so conscious of the self. Do you feel that way too?
mhm. And yes, and it's like, if something is happening on the external,
Hmm.
it's surely corresponding with something internally. So it can be considered it can be considered the same thing. And so from that perspective, it's like taking full responsibility. And something that'll add too is like, so it's like that for me, it's like that integrity uh, ensures my protection, as does an attunement with love, with the purity of love. And, however one is able to access that, masculine, feminine, really is just like being able to, to access, to be able to have access to each of those aspects. It's like, for me, like, I see my heart as like it is more powerful than any weapon that could be conceived. It's just, that's just what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. We can say that line one more time, will you? Because like that's good.
Yeah. My heart is greater than any weapon that could ever be conceived.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
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 There's no, and that, so like, I mean, this goes into a very tangible practice for me. It's like, I have a very extensive prayer that I have written and that I continually refine and practice and read and go to, that helps me to retain my integrity and to remain aligned with and open to love. And so it's literally just like a very long writing on my phone in my notes, where it just, it's just like attunement, it's affirmation, it's declaration, it's it's that.
Beautiful. How frequently do you utilize prayer in protection with frequency and affirmation?
um Probably 5 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week. For me, I definitely do like a flow. So I've never, there aren't many practices where it's like I do this every day no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
If there are, then I'm very clear on how they benefit me, and it's not something I have to fight myself about or force myself to do. It's like I'm very clear in the value of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not to say that I'm not clear in the value of this like list, or not, and it's not a list, it's like an article, I guess. This writing that I have of the prayer, if it feels right for me to go to that, then I will. Although generally, like, I'm very much supported throughout the day with more just spontaneous prayers. And I feel like I think that I could potentially be surprised by how often I actually do just like pray, not from a place of like hoping for something or like materializing a Lamborghini. uh, more so like just actually, and that is like, so it's a conversation about here. I'm gonna drop this. Okay, so my greatest protection, honestly, I feel on my journey has been my sincerity. And I can't even say that it's something that I am responsible for. It's just something that's there. It's just something that's there. And I feel like anyone who's listening to this has that as well. It's just like I refer to it as the spark that literally never dies. It's the same spark that unburied me, that helped me to unbury myself from everything that was piled on top of me as a child. The poisons, the toxins, the beliefs, the traumas, all of it, right? It's the thing that like it's just how it's what inspires me into new consciousness and illuminates my blind spots, and gifts me with the willingness to make certain choices for my soul, for my inner union. And yeah, like I'm very grateful for that, because like as much as I'd love to, like as much as I can take responsibility for how I've shown up, there's also this intangible aspect of my protection that comes from my devotion to the highest truth. And like that's just not something that I like decided one day that I'm devoted to the purity of God and nothing else. Like that just wasn't like a conscious decision. That's more so like this is what it is, and now I show up for it.
Yeah. If only you could drop your mic right there. You know? Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I always feel the sincerity that runs through you, your sincerity, which your connection to the divine, your I I'm so appreciative to witness your dedication and commitment like to the journey, but in a way that it's not even dedication and commitment because it just is. You right, there is there is no alternative. I'm very devoted to my spiritual path. It's like, no, I just this is my path, this is me, this is what it is. There isn't an alternative. It's not like I'm turning away from one type of living. It's just like this is what it is, right? And I really see that in you, and it's so beautiful to witness in another human. Even like with so many people on the spiritual path, there's it seems as though there's veils to be lifted that are kind of maybe selfish underpinnings sometimes along the spiritual journey, of like, what's in it for me? What is the life that I want to manifest? What is it that I want to feel? What is it that I want to surround myself with? And at least for me, and it sounds like I hear this in you too, it's like, no, we're just, on the path. We're here in prayer to do God's work, whatever that is. I don't know if I
Mm.
articulated that well, but I see your path, and to me, your energy feels very selfless, or wait, self-full in the way of being wholesome in the way of being like, you are whole in the sum of all that you are, right? You are whole in the light of God and the knowing of God. But it never feels like you're here with selfish intentions. I always feel your sincerity and your humility and your deep ownership and self responsibility. And I think that that's admirable, very, very admirable. And also very, very required for us to be like the good people that we are here to be. And so I just want to like really commend you for that, because I am sure that it has not been easy work, but it's the work. And I don't feel like you're a person that would ever shy away from the work, because the work is why we're here.
Mm.
Right?
Yes, that was a beautiful expression. And to respond, and thank you for the compliment. Um, yeah, you know, there have been highs on my journey that have proven to me that, or that have reflected to me that that this is the only way, as in like like I'll be careful when I say that, because you know, not to take it out of context.
What do you mean?
um you know, because there may be some people out there who are like, my way is the way, or whatever, or maybe that may come off in certain expressions. um anyway,
Different strokes for different folks, right? We're all on the journey.
yeah,
It's gonna
yeah.
be different and feel different and look different for everybody, and it's supposed to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
um so there have been highs on my experience where it's been proven to me that like it's this way or no way, and I'm glad, because this is the only thing that I ever have wanted, is like inner union, basically, if we're to simplify it to one thing, or to one word. um so there have been highs that have shown that to me, and then there have been lows where it's like, God, and this would be me saying like, God, I am so tired of my own illusions and whatever that have kept me suffering, and I trust that what you want for me, what my highest destiny is better than this, or it's just really being able to like actually surrender, and to feel like that sincere longing for purity, for harmony, for inner union beyond distortions. Yeah, be beyond distortions, because in my experience, it's been some of the distortions that can cause like the unnecessary suffering.
Yeah. I hear you. Thank you. Hmm. So, quite the thing being a human, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you have those waking moments where you're like, oh God, I'm still a human. This is such a interesting thing. You know, I often find myself like when I'm on walks, just having these sobering moments that almost feel psychedelic, and just, really witnessing the bizarreness, yet the miracle and the majesty of what it is to be a human. All the light balance with all the dark, all the ups balance with all the lows, all of
Mm.
the ebb and flow of it. I trust that it all adds to the experience of the soul, right? Regardless of what color we're experiencing this world as, or however we paint it. But
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think
yeah,
that brings great. uh I just like how that honors like the actual human experience, which at times I have uh, pushed away because it wasn't quote unquote spiritual or holy. So
fair enough. I hear you.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So we've touched on so many good topics today. You know what I'm surprised that we didn't get into.
yeah, I know.
But we'll be here another 2.5 hours if we get into that tonight.
Probably.
Yeah. Is that something that would you come back onto the show, and could we talk about all of that? Because I know that there's going to be so much goodness. There's going to be so much goodness.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
love to.
Okay. Well, I guess that probably all sounded really vague and mysterious to the audience. Okay. So, do you want to give everybody a brief intro of what our next uh, together episode will be like?
Yeah, so
Because it's gonna be so good. And like this podcast episode that you and I did right now, this will just be on the Medicine Human podcast, but the next one will also go up on our Holy Sacred Shit, since that's where we talk
yeah,
mental health. So please give everybody
yeah.
a good summary of what they can look forward to learning about your experience.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So Ivy and I share a commonality of having experience and interest in colonics, and Ivy happens to be an expert with it. She's very proficient. She is a professional when it comes to colonics and the gut and the mind, body, spirit connection when it comes to all of the stuff that is, and when I say all the stuff, I mean the pounds and pounds and pounds of rotting garbage and poop in our guts. And so Ivy and I initially connected about that because um, it's been a big part of my journey for sure. In terms of a few years ago, I did my first like very big mucoid plaque cleanse where I basically eliminated like probably between 5 to 10 pounds of plaque basically in my gut. And that shifted my baseline for it. Like that shifted my baseline entirely in how I experience life, how I experience myself. Um, because it's more than just like physical. It really is mental. It's spiritual. Um, so basically, yeah, my experience is that I've done that. I've done that type of cleanse, which has been supportive for me. And then Ivy and I will definitely talk about um like routinely doing that type of work, not necessarily like a big cleanse like that, more so like enemas, which literally anyone can do very easily in their own home. And what I have said many times, and I'll continue to say it, is uh, doing an enema on a routine basis for me, just doing an enema in general, is like the equivalent to like 10,000 meditations. Like there really aren't like they're like it is a top 5 practice for me for sure, point blank. Like it's a top 5 practice. So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to going deep into talking about that. And just it's a very deep topic.
Uh, Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I think that that's going to be such a good conversation, especially like for me. Why I really want to have that conversation with you on this public platform is because you're already years into the experience of evolving your own body in this way. Before you and I even started talking about any of this, you already have a background in what the experience is to literally purge multidimensional darkness out of your body. Right. And as you
Mm.
said, like getting out that 5 to 10 pounds of mucoid plaque and all of that darkness, that shifted the baseline of what your reality is for yourself in a physical body, but also the spiritual, energetic self within the body, inhabiting in the body and inhabiting in your own body without all of that darkness, also simultaneously inhabiting your body. Right.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
like your
Yes.
your experience in the way that you articulate and in the way that you're able to perceive and be in the experience from such a multidimensional perspective, I think is going to like it's going to bring so much value to this community, the way that you're going to share and your
Hmm.
insights and your perspective. So like I'm so looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, like seriously, Ivy like is like she is an expert. Like like it's
You don't have to
yeah.
identify me. It's okay, but
I'm
thank you.
yeah, like in her background right now, she has like a picture of the stomach, a picture of the liver. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty.
There's, you see the
Yeah,
picture right there behind
yeah.
the microphone? That's the
Yeah.
machine that makes the shitty great magic happen. But again, like you said, anybody can do an enema all on their own. You don't need to go to
Mhm.
somebody special. You don't need to spend much money at all. You know, like this type of deep spiritual work, absolutely tangible and available to everybody, no matter your budget, no matter your state of health, right? And
Mhm.
truly,
Mhm.
like when I bought this equipment, right? So this is just a glorified enema. This is just a professional enema. But my enema colonic equipment, most important spiritual tool ever purchased. You know, just as you were
Yep.
just saying, like top five, like absolutely most important, most potent spiritual tool that I have besides going within is flushing out my butt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
literally.
actually, like it's not a joke.
Yeah, you're right. I'm like, I'm
It's
making
really
such a
not
light
a.
of it, like hoping that people like, hopefully they're willing to hear this. But no, let's be really serious now. It's real shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So to cap it at this is like, Ivy, there have been times where I've done it and I'm like, this shit almost seems like unfair. Like how much of a cheat code this is. Like that's just the perception that came up. It was like, this actually seems unfair. Like how good I can feel after doing something so simple. And maybe that ties into broken traumatic perceptions of myself, of like having to earn God's love or peace or something like that. I honor that, things do take, yeah, there are responsibilities that we have. There is effort. There is all of that. That comes with just like our natural initiations in this life that can't really just be resolved with like an enema. And this practice is like incredibly powerful in bringing mental clarity and silence, like cellular silence.
That's good. I've never heard those words put on it, but that is the sensation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I share it as like an internal spaciousness and this like deep internal calm. Like this pressure has been released that you don't know that that pressure has built up until you actually start releasing it. Yeah. And it's really
Yeah.
like it's removing a buffer that, yeah, just for me it's like removing a buffer out of the body, a buffer that prevents me from feeling as strongly or intuiting as strongly. Like, for me, the enema or the colonic, it is multidimensional care for if anything is up in the physical body, but also anything like emotionally, energetically, spiritually. I flush and purify. Like it's the physical means of internal purification, right? And it's holy and saintly work to clean out the body. And it's
Yeah.
so nice
And
to meet another person that understands.
yeah. I actually don't know. I know few other people who are into this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
exciting stuff. And we will do that.
yeah. And we will get way more people hopefully interested if it is in their path. Right? Everyone's in their sovereign self.
Yeah.
Good. Well, is
Yeah.
there anything else that you want to touch on today, Nick?
No,
No.
I think it's complete.
Okay. Will you
Is
let
there?
me ask you? Yeah, I would love to hear. This is the Medicine Human podcast, and my intention, or it's not even my intention, but the purpose of this podcast, what is supposed to come through, is to really help us all remember that we are here to be our own medicine, and that we are here as medicine people, with medicine for this planet, with medicine for one another, that we are also reclaiming, terminology. And even the terminology of medicine is, an ancient term. So I would love to know, for your own self, who you are and where you are today. What is the greatest medicine for you? And I would also love to know, in your heart and soul and in your bones, how you feel that you are here in service and in medicine for others, because we're all medicine for each other too. So, two-part
Mhm.
question.
Yeah. My heart is my medicine. Therefore, my life is my medicine. And the phrasing, my life is my medicine, is not necessarily original. I have heard that said before, although that rings true for me. It's like my experience of my life with a capital L. So it's not necessarily like the mental superficial lessons that I learn. It's more so like actually allowing myself to experience my life, which feels heart opening. And my heart is literally the driver of the experience. It is the source of the experience. And so, yeah.
Thank you.
And to answer your question, um, about my medicine that I share, is my heart. Yeah, simple stuff.
It's perfect. I feel like I knew that was going to be your answer, but it's so perfect. It's so
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank
All
you
right.
for
Well,
having me. This was lovely.
it was very lovely. I hope and I trust that everything in this conversation is in here for a reason. And I hope that we are able to help some hearts and minds and bodies feel good. Mm, yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your presence. That's, let me not thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence and being here with me through all this. Thank you for sharing yourself. Like truly, truly, it is an honor to know you. It is an honor to be a sister of yours. It is an honor to be a friend of yours. It is an honor to be a colleague of yours. And I look forward to, you know, a fruitful friendship, and I'm really looking forward to our next conversation here that we can share with others.
Yes. Thank you again for inviting me. Um, and I appreciate our connection.
Thank you so much. So
Yes.
until next time.
Until next time, thank you everyone for listening. The Medicine Human Podcast.
Yes. We love you all, and we will see you all in the next episode.